God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Good day. I'm Jill G. Feller, a docent at the Perkins House here in Colfax, Washington, and I've always wanted the Perkins House to have something special of its own for Christmas. And when I was down with COVID, I came up with the idea that maybe some dolls would be appropriate for the house, some old-fashioned dolls, and I found some on eBay, and to my great delight and to my pocketbook undelight, I found some of old dolls that are made by a company that is no longer doing these. So these are collectible, and they're from the Four Sisters from Independence, Missouri. They decided to make a Christmas Carol because they are distant relatives of the illustrator of the book, originally Charles Dickens' book, The Christmas Carol. So we start off with the Christmas display with the downtown and with the Cratchit family, and then some other people from the village, and of course everybody recognizes this gentleman, Mr. Scrooge. Of course he has, I put him in a black cape because he's kind of like the bad guy at the start of the story. And then this is to represent their business downtown, and Scrooge has a big pile of gold behind his back, and he, of course, is not going to share anything with the Cratchit family for Christmas because he thinks that Bob Cratchit has plenty. Bah humbug. Then he goes to bed at night. Now these are a bigger doll. These are Breyer's dolls, and they are, again, collectibles. You won't find these anywhere except in antique stores and maybe on eBay. But here's Marley and his bells. Here's Charles Dickens and his bed, and he's telling him he better shape up or there won't be any more Christmases. So he's visited by different ghosts. And so these are the bigger dolls, Briar dolls, and I threw in some Four Sisters dolls representing Charles Dickens when he was little and nobody would play with him. Then I'm going to trade places with my photographer. This is represent, of course, Tiny Tim and possibly no longer being here. This is the Fezziwigs having a Christmas party at their house with the violinists and the singers, and Scrooge and his fiancée, which he dumps, of course, because he wants his gold. Then there's the ghost of Christmas Present, and he talks to him about Tiny Tim and various other things. So again, they're bigger dolls. And then we come to, of course, everybody's favorite, the last ghost, the ghost of Christmas Future. He shows Ebenezer Scrooge his tombstone. Then, of course, Scrooge changes his mind. He becomes a happy person, and he gives lots of things to the Cratchit family because he wants to be family. So here is a representation of the bigger Briar dolls with Scrooge being happy. You've got your goose for the Christmas feast. You have the pudding. You've got the Christmas carolers. And everybody's happy because Scrooge is no longer a tight fist. And the best thing about this is, of course, the money pot, that with all the money in it that Scrooge fills up. So, this is my representation of A Christmas Carol, and I hope that you come and visit us at the Perkins House in Colfax, Washington.
The Perkins House has a variety of interesting artifacts from time goes by, and this is one of them. As you can see, how high the candle sits in this candlestick is determined by where you move the lever to. This was called a courting candle. When a young man was paying attention to your daughter and came to visit, you would set the candle to a certain height, depending on how you felt about the young man. And when the candle burned down, it was time for the young man to go home.
This is one of the Perkins House's music boxes, and we have a disc that is called the Mystery Disc. So we're going to play it, and if any of the audience or people out there, they could recognize this tune, we'd love to know what it is.
Was made for Dr. Frank Bryant of Colfax by his wife Irma in 1917. He was the county health officer of Whitman County at the time, but he resigned to serve in World War I and was in France and Germany in 1918 and 1919. His letters home detail the horrors of the front and the hospitals. He carried this Afghan with him and later said that without having had it to wrap around his feet, he would have frozen many times. Many of the men in the trenches were plagued with horrible conditions, from which he was spared, he believed, on account of the Afghan.